Done, Sem.
Right, team, let's
Worthless.
go.
Three
Control
words
the
that
front.
cost a man his career.
That's
Senior
it.
Chief Cade
Perfect.
Brennan dragged Elena Thorne's unconscious body across the sand, her blood trailing behind like a contract being written in real time. Two instructors flanked him, hands locked under her arms, her boots carving twin grooves through the compound dirt. Her olive uniform shirt hung torn at the collar, exposing bruises that mapped 6 weeks of what Brennan called remedial training. Dark hair had come loose from its regulation tie, spreading across her shoulders like spilled ink. Brennan threw open the gate to the K9 compound. 6 Belgian Malinois turned as one, their ears flattening against their skulls. These weren't pets. These were weapons with heartbeats trained to shred intruders on command. 90 pounds each of muscle and teeth in controlled fury. He hurled her through the opening. Her body hit concrete with a sound that made the younger instructor flinch. The gate clanged shut behind her. Brennan stood outside the chain-link fence, arms crossed, satisfaction carved into every line of his face. Let's see how tough you are now, sweetheart. Inside the enclosure, Freya moved first. The alpha female stalked forward with the deliberate precision of a predator closing distance. Her lips peeled back. Teeth like ivory daggers caught the sodium lights. She'd taken down armed combatants in training simulations. She'd been taught that anything inside this kennel without authorization was prey. Elena's eyes opened. Not with fear, not with panic, with recognition. Freya stopped 3 feet away, her nose lowered, nostrils flaring. She inhaled once, twice, processing a scent that didn't match her training, but triggered something deeper. Something older than the commands beaten into her brain. Her nose pressed against Elena's left forearm, against the torn fabric of her sleeve, against skin that hadn't seen daylight at Coronado before this moment. Brennan leaned forward, waiting for the scream that would prove he'd been right all along, that this female candidate didn't belong. That 6 weeks of punishment had finally broken her. The scream never came. Freya's tail moved, just once. A single wag that made no tactical sense unless you understood what she was protecting. The dog lay down beside Elena, not attacking, guarding. Brennan's satisfaction curdled into confusion. What the hell? One by one, the others approached. Odin, the veteran who'd lost half an ear in Afghanistan. Thor, the massive male who'd never failed a takedown. Loki, Storm, Shadow. Each one pressed close to Elena's body, forming a protective circle around the woman their instructor had thrown away like garbage. Master Chief William Garrett materialized from the darkness beyond the floodlights. 68 years old, back still straight as rebar eyes that had seen things the younger generation couldn't imagine. His flashlight beam swept across the kennel. It stopped on Elena's forearm. Her sleeve had torn further during the fall. The tattoo showed clearly now, a wolf's head circling a blade. Black ink on pale skin. The radio clattered from Garrett's hand. Mother of God! Brennan spun. Master Chief, what's wrong with you? Get these dogs under control. Garrett didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on Elena's arm, on the mark that only 9 people in the entire Department of Defense could verify. That mark, Garrett said, his voice barely above a whisper. Do you know what that mark means? Brennan glanced at Elena's forearm. It's a tattoo, so what half these candidates have tattoos? Not like that one. Garrett finally looked at Brennan, and there was something in his expression that made the instructor take an involuntary step back. That's the Valkyrie designation. Only 9 people in the world carry it. 9 people in the entire Department of Defense. He paused. You just threw a Tier 1 operator to her own dogs. The words hung in the air like smoke from a gun barrel. I don't know what you're talking about, Brennan said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Garrett pulled out his phone, hands shaking in a way they hadn't shaken since Desert Storm. He made a call that would change everything. Inside the kennel, Elena sat up slowly. Her hand found Freya's head. The dog pressed into her palm with the familiarity of an old friend reuniting after years apart. You remember me, Elena whispered. Good girl. Good girl. The kennel master, Staff Sergeant Miguel Santos, arrived 3 minutes later. 15 years training, special operations K9 units. He'd seen things that never made it into official reports. He knew marks and signs and legends that existed only in whispered conversations between operators who'd earned the right to whisper. But even he stopped dead when he saw what was happening inside that enclosure. 6 attack dogs trained to kill without hesitation. 6 killers treating a female buds candidate like she was their mother coming home from war. 32 years earlier, the sand was different. Hotter. More red than brown. Kuwait burned on the horizon, oil fires turning day into twilight. Staff Sergeant Marcus Thorne knelt beside his K9 partner, a Belgian Malinois named Odin, 26 years old, 3rd-generation military, 1st-generation handler. He represented something new in special operations, a warrior who fought alongside his dog, not behind it. Odin's head snapped toward a collapsed section of concrete. His entire body went rigid. The alert. Lieutenant William Garrett approached from the rear, M16 at low ready. 36 years old handler, supervisor, veteran of conflicts the younger generation only read about in history books. What did he find? Marcus didn't look up from his dog. Chemical weapons cache, exactly where intelligence said it wouldn't be. Garrett keyed his radio. Command, this is Fenrir 1. Target located grid Victor Tango 47. Request EOD support. And immediate. The radio died. All of them simultaneously. Every frequency, every channel just static in silence. Marcus met Garrett's eyes. Something passed between them that didn't require words. The understanding that someone didn't want this cache reported. That someone had just cut their communications deliberately. We document everything, Garrett said quietly. Whatever happens next, this discovery goes on record. Marcus pulled a 35mm camera from his pack, pre-digital era, before everything lived in clouds and servers. He photographed the site from every angle. 37 images that would later disappear from official files. 37 pieces of evidence that someone would spend the next 25 years trying to erase. Years later, standing in the darkness outside a kennel at Coronado, Garrett would remember that moment. Would remember the look in Marcus Thorne's eyes as he documented something someone wanted buried. Would remember thinking that this young handler was going to get himself killed if he didn't learn when to look away. Marcus Thorne never learned to look away. The cemetery at Arlington stood silent under gray October sky. 17-year-old Elena Thorne clutched a folded flag against her chest, her father's casket 12 feet away. Closed casket, not enough left after the mechanical failure that brought down his helicopter over the Hindu Kush. The official story came in clean type sentences. Training accident, rotor malfunction, no survivors, investigation pending, condolences from a grateful nation. Elena's eyes swept the crowd with a precision that didn't match civilian grief. She was cataloging faces, memorizing attendees, looking for something the official story didn't explain. Why a training accident required 3 separate investigations. Why her father's commanding officer had visited their house the week before and spent 4 hours in the garage talking in voices too low to hear. Why the maintenance records for that helicopter had been sealed under national security classification. Master Chief William Garrett stood 20 yards back wearing dress blues that felt heavier than body armor. 63 years old, 41 years of service. He'd attended too many funerals, folded too many flags. But Marcus Thorne's death wasn't like the others. Marcus had been investigating something. 7 Wolfpack handlers dead in 15 years, all in training accidents or equipment failures or enemy contacts that didn't quite add up. Marcus had found a pattern. Financial records that showed someone was getting paid every time a handler died. He'd been 3 days from exposing it. Then his helicopter fell from the sky. Garrett watched Marcus's daughter scan the crowd, and he saw Marcus in every movement. The same steel gray eyes, the same hunter's stillness, the same refusal to accept the story everyone else swallowed whole. She's just like him, Garrett thought, which means she's in danger the moment she starts asking questions. He made a decision that day, standing in that cemetery under that gray sky. If Marcus Thorne's daughter followed her father's path, Garrett would be there. He owed Marcus that much. He owed the truth that much. He owed the 7 dead handlers whose families got the same folded flags and the same clean-typed lies. Syria, Damascus Province, 2020. The compound raid went wrong before the first breach. Intel had missed the tunnels. Enemy fighters poured from underground passages that weren't on any map, and the team found itself taking fire from 3 directions. Elena Thorne moved through the west corridor like smoke. 21 years old, call sign Valkyrie, 3 years active service in a program that didn't officially exist. Her K9 partner Freya cleared the path ahead. 4 enemy combatants went down before they could raise weapons. Not because of the dog, though. Freya moved like liquid shadow, because Elena had become something more than a handler. She'd become what Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes always believed handlers could be, an operator. Freya alerted on a basement door. Standard protocol said wait for EOD, wait for the team, wait for someone else to take the risk. But Elena read something different in her dog's behavior. Not the rigid focus that meant explosives. Something else. A whimpering uncertainty she'd only seen once before when Freya had found a mass grave in Yemen. Human distress. Children's distress. Elena breached alone. Behind that door, 4 children sat bound and gagged, hours away from being trafficked across the Turkish border. A network that stretched from Damascus to Berlin, using the chaos of war to move human cargo. Elena freed them, called for extraction, held them while they cried. The network she collapsed that night made international headlines, though her name never appeared in any report. Her face went on to a classified list that made her too valuable for conventional operations and too dangerous for the people who'd been running that network for profit. 3 weeks later, Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes died in the back of a transport helicopter. Not quite random. Someone had been hunting the Wolfpack, eliminating its members one by one. Elena held Hayes as she bled out pressed gauze against wounds that wouldn't stop flowing, listened to the woman who'd given her purpose speak her final words. "Promise me." Hayes whispered, her grip on Elena's wrist weakening with every breath. "Finish the pipeline, go through BUD/S, earn the trident." "I will. Prove that handlers can make it through the same crucible as everyone else." Hayes coughed and blood flecked her lips. "Show them we're not attachments. We're operators. I promise." Hayes's eyes focused with effort. "But also, find who killed your father. The Wolfpack program, someone's been eliminating us. One by one, Shameto." She pulled Elena closer. "Garrett knows. Find him. Trust him. He'll..." Her grip loosened. Her eyes went distant. She died 2 minutes later, and Elena held her body as the helicopter descended into Kandahar, whispering the vow again and again. "I'll finish the pipeline. I'll find the truth. I'll make them pay." Naval Special Warfare Center, Coronado, California. Present day, 0430 hours. Elena Thorne stepped off the bus with 36 other candidates, her cover story sealed tighter than a submarine hatch. The file said veterinary technician, Fort Benning, cross-trained to Navy, requested SEAL assessment. Nothing remarkable, nothing threatening, just another candidate who'd probably ring the bell before Hell Week. Senior Chief Cade Brennan stood on the grinder, reviewing packets in the pre-dawn darkness. 45 years old, 23 years in naval special warfare, he'd seen every kind of candidate. The ones who thought they were hard until the cold water proved otherwise. The ones who talked about brotherhood until their muscles started screaming. The ones who showed up thinking diversity quotas would carry them through standards that didn't negotiate. He picked up Elena's file. Another one, third female candidate this year. Instructor Webb glanced over. "I give her 10 days. I give her 5. Brennan watched Elena take her place in formation. Something about her movement bothered him. An economy of motion that didn't match her file. A stillness between actions that spoke of someone who'd learned to conserve energy in environments where waste meant death. The candidates formed up in the darkness, and Brennan began a speech. The same speech he gave every class, refined over 2 decades into a weapon designed to separate tourists from warriors. "You are here because someone somewhere made the mistake of thinking you might have what it takes to join the most elite fighting force on Earth. Most of you are wrong. Most of you will ring that bell before the week is out." His eyes found Elena in the formation. "Some of you don't belong here at all." He walked toward her, boots crunching on the gravel. "You, female candidate, step forward." Elena stepped forward. No hesitation, no visible reaction. "Candidate Thorne, Senior Chief." "Thorne." He circled her slowly, making a show of examining her like livestock at auction. "Your file says veterinary technician. That means you played with puppies while real soldiers were fighting real wars. Is that accurate?" "I worked with military working dogs, Senior Chief." "Dogs." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath. "You taught dogs to sit and stay. Now you think you can become a Navy SEAL." "I'm here to find out, Senior Chief." Something flickered in her eyes when she said it. Not defiance exactly, something deeper. Something Brennan couldn't identify and therefore couldn't tolerate. "We'll see about that, Thorne. We'll see." From the K9 compound 300 yards away, Master Chief William Garrett watched through binoculars. The moment he saw Elena's face, his mind flashed to Marcus Thorne, same eyes, same walk, same hunter's stillness that preceded violence. "Marcus Garrett thought your daughter came. God help us all." The first week separated the tourists from the committed. Candidates dropped at a rate of 3 per day. The bell rang with metronomic regularity as men who dreamed of becoming SEALs discovered that dreams and reality operated on different frequencies. Elena didn't ring the bell. She didn't complain. She didn't make excuses. She simply endured hour after hour, evolution after evolution, with a patience that began to unsettle the instructors who watched her. "She's not normal," Instructor Webb said during the second week, watching Elena complete a punishment evolution designed specifically for her. 4 hours of surf torture alone while her class moved on to other training. She emerged from the Pacific blue-lipped and shaking, but her eyes held the same calm they'd held when she walked in. Brennan watched from the observation tower. She's hiding something. Like what? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. He made her his project. Extra punishment evolutions, additional physical training, isolation drills designed to break her mentally when he couldn't break her physically. The other candidates started calling her Ghost, not because she was quiet, though she rarely spoke more than necessary, because she seemed to disappear during evolutions, blending into whatever environment surrounded her, then reappearing exactly where she needed to be. Day 3 of the first week, Elena completed a solo surf torture evolution that should have induced hypothermia. 4 hours in water cold enough to stop a heart. She emerged shaking so hard her teeth rattled, but she walked to the next evolution under her own power. That night, Master Chief Garrett intercepted her during a rare moment alone. The other candidates had collapsed in their racks, dead to the world. Elena sat outside the barracks cleaning her boots with movements so automatic they looked like meditation. Candidate Thorne, Garrett's voice came from the darkness. A word. Elena stood immediately, the instinct so ingrained she couldn't have stopped it if she tried. She turned to face the Master Chief, and something in her posture changed. Recognition, maybe, or wariness. Master Chief? Garrett stepped into the light from the barracks window. Your father, Marcus Thorne, Staff Sergeant Special Operations, died 2016 classified helicopter crash over Afghanistan. Elena's hand drifted toward her waistband, muscle memory reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. She caught herself, but not before Garrett noticed. How do you know that name? I trained him. I was at Fort Bragg when you were born in '99. I held you when you were 3 days old, and your father was so tired he couldn't see straight, but he wouldn't let anyone else feed you your bottle. Garrett's voice softened. I know exactly why you're here, Elena. The use of her first name hit like a physical blow. Nobody at BUD/S used first names. Candidates were candidates until they earned the right to be called something else. I'm here to become a SEAL. You're here to keep a promise to Rebecca Hayes and to find out who killed your father. Garrett met her eyes. I'm here to make sure you survive long enough to do both. The silence stretched between them, two operators sizing each other up across a generation gap. Hayes told me to find you, Elena said finally. Said you knew about it, the conspiracy. I know pieces. Your father knew more. That's why they killed him. Garrett glanced toward the instructor compound. Brennan's going to try to break you. He sees a female candidate who doesn't belong. He doesn't see what I see. What do you see? Marcus Thorne's daughter. Garrett pulled something from his pocket, a small SD card. Which means you're tougher than anyone in this program suspects, but also a target. Someone eliminated 7 Wolfpack handlers before your father started investigating. They killed him to stop the investigation. Hayes picked it up. They killed her too. He pressed the SD card into her palm. If they figure out Marcus's daughter is here asking questions, they'll eliminate you the same way they eliminated him. Elena closed her fist around the card. Let them try. Garrett almost smiled. That's what your father said, 3 days before his helicopter went down. His expression hardened. I won't let that happen again. I'm your insurance policy, Elena. Brennan thinks he's hunting you. He doesn't realize I'm hunting whoever killed Marcus. What do you need from me? Survive BUD/S. Don't expose yourself. Let me handle the investigation quietly. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. Your father's last transmission before he died. He sent it to me encrypted. Took me 6 years to crack it. That SD card, listen to it when you're alone. I think you should hear his voice one more time. He walked away, leaving Elena with a piece of plastic that weighed more than all her gear combined. The second week brought escalation. Brennan assigned Elena to every dangerous evolution, positioned her in every difficult spot, ensured that every moment of training pushed her closer to the breaking point he was certain existed. But Elena had been broken before. In Syria, in Yemen. In places that didn't exist on maps by people who made Brennan look like a kindergarten teacher. His worst was her Tuesday. What Brennan didn't see was Garrett quietly sabotaging the exercises that would have killed her. When Brennan ordered 8-hour log PT, double the regulation maximum, Garrett discovered equipment malfunction at hour 5. When Brennan assigned Elena to night navigation through terrain rigged with simulated IEEDs, Garrett pre-positioned emergency beacons for safety protocols. Brennan grew suspicious. Master Chief, you seem very concerned about candidate Thorne. Garrett's poker face never cracked. Just maintaining training standards. Senior Chief, dead candidates create paperwork nobody wants. That night, Elena appeared at Garrett's office, unauthorized, off the books, the kind of visit that could get a candidate dropped from the program. You've been protecting me. Garrett didn't deny it. I've been keeping a promise to your father. What promise? That if anything happened to him, I'd watch over you. He knew someone was hunting Wolfpack members. He asked me to make sure you survived long enough to find out who. Elena sat in the chair across from his desk, exhaustion making her movements heavy. Do you know who killed him? Garrett pulled a worn notebook from his desk drawer. I have suspicions, but I need proof. He slid the notebook across. 7 handlers dead between 2001 and 2016. All training accidents. All within 6 months of rotating through Navis Spekwar Command Headquarters. Elena opened the notebook. Names, dates, locations, a pattern emerging like bones from sand. Your father was building this case. Hayes continued it. Now it's yours. Garrett leaned forward. But Elena, I need you to focus on BUD/S right now. Graduate, get your trident, then we hunt. Because when we move against whoever this is, we'll need you to be a SEAL to have any authority. How long have you been investigating? Since the day they killed your father, 7 years. His voice cracked slightly. Marcus was like a son to me. I let him die because I didn't act fast enough. I won't make that mistake with you. Elena stood notebook in hand. Then let's make sure his death meant something. It will. I promise you that. She moved toward the door, then paused. The SD card you gave me. My father's last transmission. What's on it? Garrett's expression went distant. Listen to it. He'll tell you himself. The third week brought Hell Week. 5.5 days of continuous training with minimal sleep. Candidates dropped like casualties on a battlefield, their bodies and minds surrendering to exhaustion that operated on a cellular level. Brennan watched Elena with increasing frustration. She should have broken. Everyone broke during Hell Week. The only question was whether they broke and quit or broke and continued. Elena showed no signs of breaking at all. On the third night, he found her during a brief rest period. The other candidates had collapsed where they stood unconscious before their bodies hit sand. Elena sat upright, back against a concrete barrier, eyes open and alert. Candidate Thorne, she stood immediately. Senior Chief, you think you're special, don't you? No Senior Chief. Then why are you still here? Every other female candidate who's come through this program has rung out. What makes you different? Elena met his eyes. In the darkness, her gaze held something that made Brennan take an involuntary step back. I made a promise, Senior Chief, to someone who died believing in something. I intend to keep that promise. A promise. Brennan laughed, but it sounded hollow even to his own ears. This isn't about promises, Thorne. This is about capability, physical capability. And no matter how stubborn you are, biology is biology. Permission to speak freely, Senior Chief. Denied. Elena's silence said everything. Her eyes said she knew exactly what he was. They said she'd met men like him before in places he couldn't imagine. They said she was going to outlast him no matter what it cost. Brennan leaned close. I'm going to break you, Thorne. Not because I want to, because you don't belong here. The sooner you accept that, the sooner we can both move on. With respect, Senior Chief, Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. Many people have tried to break me. Better people than you. They failed too. It was the closest she'd come to defiance since arriving. Brennan smiled without warmth. We'll see. He walked away, planning his next escalation. Behind him, Elena sat back down against the barrier. Her hand found the dog tags hidden beneath her shirt. Her father's tags. The ones Garrett had promised to give her when she became a SEAL. She closed her eyes and heard her father's voice from the SD card she'd listened to 3 nights ago. Garrett, if you're hearing this, I'm probably dead. The recording had been worse than she'd imagined. Hearing his voice, hearing the certainty in his tone that he wouldn't survive what came next. I found the pattern. 7 handlers, 15 years, all killed within 6 months of rotating through Nav Spekwar HQ. Someone selling our operational intelligence. Handler deployments. K9 capabilities, infiltration methods. That's why we're being eliminated. We know too much. Static. I identified 3 suspects. Admiral Vance Hardwick, Captain Morrison, Commander Reyes. All had access to the right files at the right times. I'm meeting a contact tomorrow who has banking evidence. If I don't make it back, tell Elena I love her. Tell her to be smarter than her old man. A pause, then her father's voice again quieter. And Garrett, finish this. Don't let them keep killing us. The recording had ended, and Elena had sat in the darkness for 2 hours memorizing every word, every inflection, every breath. Now, on the third night of Hell Week, she made a silent vow to the father she'd never see again. I'll finish it. I promise. I'll find them. And I'll make them pay for what they took from us. Day 4 of Hell Week brought the boat crew evolution. Rough surf, dangerous conditions, exactly the kind of environment where accidents happened and nobody asked too many questions afterward. Candidate Marcus Graham's boat capsized in a wave that came from nowhere. He went under, tangled in equipment straps 8 feet down in churning water. Elena saw him disappear, saw the panic in his eyes in the half-second before the Pacific swallowed him whole. She dove before anyone else processed what was happening. The water closed over her head like a fist. 30 pounds of waterlogged equipment tried to drag her down, but she kicked hard, equalizing pressure, finding Marcus in the murk through touch and training that had nothing to do with BUD/S, Wolfpack protocols, combat diver techniques, things she'd learned in Syria and Yemen, and places that didn't exist on any map. Her fingers found the strap tangling his leg, worked it by feel muscle memory taking over when conscious thought would have been too slow. The strap released. She grabbed Marcus and kicked for the surface with strength that came from somewhere deeper than muscle. They broke surface together. Marcus coughed, water breathed lived. On the beach, the instructors stood in the stunned silence. Instructor Webb finally spoke. I've never seen a BUDS candidate perform that rescue. She dove 8 feet in full kit, freed him blind, brought him up all after 3 days without sleep. Brennan watched Elena drip on the sand, and something clicked into place behind his eyes. Suspicion crystallizing into certainty. A veterinary technician who executes Tier 1 underwater rescue. His voice had gone flat dangerous. Explain that, candidate Thorne. Elena met his stare. I did what was necessary, Senior Chief. Where did you learn that technique? Classified, Senior Chief. The word detonated between them like a flashbang. Brennan's face went dark. You're lying about everything. No, Senior Chief. I'm protecting information I'm not authorized to disclose. Brennan stared at her for 10 seconds that felt like 10 hours. Then he turned to the other instructors. Get them cleaned up and fed. Evolution continues in 4 hours. He walked away, but Elena could see it in the set of his shoulders. The way his hands clenched and unclenched. He knows she thought, maybe not everything, but enough. That night, Senior Chief Cade Brennan sat in his office and made phone calls. Quiet calls. The kind that didn't go through official channels. He had friends at Fort Benning, friends at SOCOM, friends who owed him favors. By 0300 hours, he had pieces of the truth. Not the full picture. Elena's real file sat in databases he'd never have clearance to access, but enough to confirm what he'd suspected since the underwater rescue. Candidate Elena Thorne was not a veterinary technician. She was something else. Something that made her rescue of Marcus Graham look like exactly what it was: muscle memory from training that exceeded anything BUD/S provided. At 0400 hours, he called Master Chief Garrett to his office. Garrett arrived 5 minutes later, his face showing nothing. Brennan didn't waste time. You knew from day one who she really is. Garrett sat in the chair across from Brennan's desk and made a decision. The conspiracy had been operating for 30 years. Elena needed allies, not enemies. And Cade Brennan was many things, but he wasn't stupid. Yes, Garrett said simply. She's Wolfpack. Not a question. Her name is Elena Thorne, callsign Valkyrie. 3 years active service, Silver Star for classified actions in Damascus. She's operated in 14 countries under 6 cover identities, and she's here because her father was murdered for investigating a conspiracy inside Naval Special Warfare Command. Brennan processed this. Murdered. Made to look like a training accident, along with 6 other handlers over 15 years. Garrett leaned forward. Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes, Wolfpack founder, continued the investigation. She died in an ambush 3 years ago. Before she died, she asked Elena to do 2 things. Prove handlers can complete BUD/S without special treatment, and find whoever's been eliminating Wolfpack operators for 30 years. The office fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Brennan sat heavily. I've spent 6 weeks trying to break her, because I thought she didn't belong. You didn't know. You weren't supposed to know. That was the point. Garrett's voice hardened. But she's in danger now, Brennan. Real danger. Not from BUD/S. From whoever's been killing handlers since before you made Senior Chief. Someone at this command. Someone senior. And when they realize Marcus Thorne's daughter is here asking questions, they'll come for her. Brennan looked at the phone on his desk. The calls he'd made, the questions he'd asked. Jesus, did I just expose her? Maybe, maybe not. Depends who you talk to. Garrett met his eyes. But it doesn't matter now. What matters is what you do next. What do you need from me? The question hung in the air, the turning point, the moment where Cade Brennan chose between the vendetta he'd been nursing for 6 weeks and something larger than his own pride. Stop targeting her, Garrett said. Start watching for threats that don't come from training evolutions. And when the time comes, be ready to put your career on the line, because that's what it'll take to protect her. Brennan nodded slowly. Marcus Thorne, I remember that name. He was a legend in handler circles. He was my friend. Garrett's voice cracked slightly, and I let him die because I didn't see the threat coming. I won't make that mistake twice. Silence filled the office. Then Brennan stood and extended his hand. Tell me what you need. Week 6 arrived like a reckoning. Elena had survived what should have killed her. 5 weeks of systematic abuse disguised as training. 5 weeks of Brennan trying to break what couldn't be broken. But something had shifted. The targeting stopped. The extra punishment, evolutions ended. Brennan still pushed her hard, but no harder than he pushed everyone else. Elena didn't trust the change. In her experience, when predators stopped circling, it meant they'd found a different approach. She was right. Morning formation 0500 hours. Brennan made his announcement. Today's evolution, K9 stress inoculation. Candidates will be exposed to trained attack dogs in controlled environment to prepare for working with military working dogs downrange. His eyes found Elena in the formation. Candidate Thorne, you'll go first. Given your veterinary background, this should be easy for you. Elena saw the trap immediately, but not the trap she expected. This wasn't Brennan trying to break her anymore. This was Brennan testing whether Garrett had been telling the truth, testing whether she was really Wolfpack. The walk to the K9 compound felt like a death march. Other candidates followed at a distance, ordered to observe. Elena's mind raced through scenarios, calculating odds, preparing for what came next. Master Chief Garrett waited at the kennel gate. 6 Belgian Malinois paced behind the chain link, their attention focused and deadly. Elena met Garrett's eyes as she approached. She saw the warning there, the concern, the silent message that said this evolution was more than it appeared. Brennan stood nearby, arms crossed, but his posture had changed over the past week. Less predatory, more watchful, like a man guarding something instead of hunting it. Candidate Thorne, Brennan said, enter the kennel. Remain inside 5 minutes. Do not attempt to leave before time expires. Elena's hand touched the gate latch. The dogs began barking, the sounds sharp and aggressive in the morning air. She opened the gate, stepped inside. The metal clanged shut behind her. 6 Belgian Malinois turned as one, their predator instincts triggered by the intrusion. Freya stalked forward with the precision of a missile locking onto target. Her ears flattened against her skull. Her lips peeled back, revealing teeth that had torn through level 3 bite suits in training. 90 pounds of Belgian Malinois bred and trained for one purpose, to destroy threats on command. 3 feet away she stopped. Her nose lowered to Elena's forearm, to the torn fabric of her sleeve, to the tattoo hidden beneath for 6 weeks. The wolf's head circling a blade. Freya's growl died in her throat. Her tail moved once. A single wag that rewrote every assumption Brennan had made about this candidate. The dog lay down beside Elena, and the world shifted on its axis. One by one the others approached. Odin pressed his scarred head against Elena's hand. Thor, massive, lethal, whimpered like a puppy reuniting with his mother. Loki, Storm, Shadow, each one forming a protective circle around the woman the instructors had tried to break. Outside the fence, Brennan exhaled a breath he hadn't known he was holding. She's Wolfpack, he said quietly. You were right. Garrett nodded, but his eyes never left the compound perimeter. Now we protect her, because someone's going to notice. As if summoned by the words, an alarm shrieked across the base. Security lockdown. All personnel respond. Garrett and Brennan exchanged a look that needed no translation. This wasn't a drill. An unmarked SUV roared toward the K9 compound, tires spitting gravel. 4 men emerged, civilian clothes, no insignia, movements that screamed special operations even without the uniforms to prove it. The leader approached Brennan with the confidence of someone who outranked everyone present, even without wearing rank. We're here for Candidate Thorne, orders from Nav Specwar Command. Brennan's jaw tightened. What orders? I'm the senior instructor for this class. Nobody told me about any transfer. Classified. Step aside, Senior Chief. Garrett moved forward, placing himself between the strangers and the kennel gate. 68 years old, but his body remembered every fight it had ever survived. "You're not taking her." The hostile leader's eyes flickered with something recognition, maybe, or concern. "Master Chief Garrett, we hoped you'd stay out of this." His voice dropped. "Like you did with Marcus Thorne." The words landed like mortar rounds. Garrett's face went to stone, but his hands trembled. "I let Marcus die because I didn't have proof." His voice dropped to something cold and final. "I have it now." He was bluffing. They both knew it. But the lie bought seconds, and seconds were currency in the economy of violence. Inside the kennel, Elena heard everything. The dogs sensed the shift in atmosphere, the way predators sense storms before they break. They pressed closer to her, a living wall of muscle and teeth. The hostile leader made a decision. "Then you'll die with her." Fire team breached. "That I wouldn't do that." Elena's voice cut through the tension like a wire through flesh. 6 Belgian Malinois stood at the fence, hackles raised, teeth bared. Elena rose behind them, blood on her lip. From where Brennan had struck her hours ago, her uniform torn, but her eyes holding something that made trained operators recalculate their odds. "These dogs are trained to kill on command. 45 seconds from gate to your throats. You might shoot 1, maybe 2. She paused. "The rest will tear you apart before you can reload." The leader studied her, studied the news, ran the mathematics of violence, and didn't like the answer. Brennan stepped beside Garrett. "And you'll go through me to get that gate open." Footsteps behind them. Candidate Declan Murphy emerged from the barracks with 4 other candidates, all of them moving with the casual violence of men who'd seen combat before BUD/S. "And us," Murphy said. "Mexican standoff. 15 seconds where the world balanced on a knife edge." Commander Stratton Blackwell arrived with base security, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Stand down, all of you. What the hell is happening at my K9 compound?" The hostile team leader made the calculation. Too many witnesses. Too much attention. He gestured to his men, and they withdrew to their SUV like smoke evaporating. But they weren't arrested, weren't detained, too connected for that. Blackwell watched them disappear, then turned to face the tableau at the kennel. Garrett, Brennan, Murphy, and the other candidates. And inside the enclosure, Elena Thorne surrounded by attack dogs that should have killed her. "My office," Blackwell said. "Now, Garrett, Brennan, and get that candidate out of the kennel." Commander Stratton Blackwell's office felt smaller than it should have. Elena sat across from his desk, still in her torn uniform, Garrett and Brennan flanking her like honor guards. The base commander studied her with eyes that had seen too many classified briefings to be surprised by anything. "Petty Officer Thorne," Blackwell said, "because that's who you really are. I know about your father. I know about the Wolfpack investigation. And I know about the conspiracy." Elena's spine straightened. "Then why haven't you stopped it?" "Because it goes higher than me. Someone at NAV Command, probably flag officer level. I've been trying to identify them for 3 years." He leaned back in his chair. "Since Lieutenant Hayes died." The name landed like a physical blow. Elena's hands clenched on the armrests. Blackwell continued. "I was her commanding officer, knew about her investigation. She came to me 2 weeks before she died, said she had evidence of a mole selling Wolfpack operational intelligence. Said she was close to identifying them." His voice went quiet. "Then she was killed in what they called an ambush. But the enemy shouldn't have known where her team would be that night. Someone told them." Garrett spoke for the first time. "We have suspects." Elena found her father's final transmission. He identified 3 possibilities before he died. Admiral Vance Hardwick, Captain Morrison, Commander Riquez. Blackwell's face drained of color. "Hardwick, Jesus Christ. He's currently Deputy Commander of Naval Special Warfare. If it's him, he's got access to everything. Training schedules, deployment orders, personnel files." He looked at Elena. "That's why those men came for you today. Hardwick must know Marcus Thorne's daughter is here. Must know you're asking questions." "How did he find out?" Elena asked. Brennan shifted uncomfortably. "I made some calls last week. After the underwater rescue, I was trying to figure out who you really were. I talked to some people at Fort Benning, SOCOM, asked about candidates with advanced capabilities." He met her eyes. "I might have exposed you." Silence filled the office like water filling a sinking ship. Elena processed this. The calls Brennan made, the questions that rippled through the network, someone listening who shouldn't have been. "It's not your fault," she said finally. "If it wasn't that, it would have been something else. Hardwick's been hunting Wolfpack members for 30 years. He's patient. He would have found me eventually. Blackwell stood and walked to the window overlooking the training compound. Those men who came for you, they're his cleanup crew. Wet work operators who handle problems quietly. The fact that they showed up in broad daylight means Hardwick knows you're a threat, an active, immediate threat. Good, Elena said. Let him come for me, but I'm finishing BUD/S first. Elena, Garrett started. No. She stood, her voice carrying the steel that had gotten her through 6 weeks of hell. I made 2 promises to Hayes and to my father. I'm keeping both. I finish BUD/S, I earn my trident. Then I destroy whoever killed them. Brennan nodded slowly. You'll need backup. The door opened. Declan Murphy stood in the frame, 4 other candidates behind him. She's got it. Blackwell studied the group. This isn't your fight, Murphy. With respect, Commander, any fight that involves operators being murdered for profit is everyone's fight. Murphy's Irish accent thickened the way it did when he was angry. I worked with Wolfpack handlers downrange. They saved my life in Helmand Province. I owe the program. The other candidates murmured agreement. Blackwell made a decision. Here's how this plays out. Elena finishes BUD/S. 3 weeks left. We protect her around the clock. Garrett, you coordinate security. Brennan, you make sure no training evolution puts her in a position where Hardwick's people can stage an accident. He turned to Elena. After graduation, I assign you to NavSpecWar HQ as intelligence liaison. Inside their headquarters, you gather the proof we need to bring Hardwick down. And if he makes a move before then, Elena asked. Blackwell's smile held no warmth. Then we make sure his cleanup crew understands what happens when you threaten a SEAL candidate surrounded by Wolfpack-trained attack dogs. The medical evaluation took 2 hours. Mild hypothermia from the extended surf torture. Multiple contusions. 2 cracked ribs from a punishment evolution 3 days ago that Brennan had claimed was standard training. The corpsman examining her kept glancing at the tattoo on her forearm. That mark, he said finally, I've seen it before. Once. On a handler who saved my life in Afghanistan. Elena pulled her sleeve down. It's just a tattoo. Right, he finished his notes. You're cleared for continued training, candidate Thorne, but I'd recommend light duty for 48 hours. I didn't come here for light duty. The corpsman almost smiled. No, I don't imagine you did. That night, Elena sat alone in her rack while the other candidates slept. She pulled out the SD card Garrett had given her and listened to her father's voice for the 10th time. I identified 3 suspects. Admiral Vance Hardwick, Captain Morrison, Commander Reyes. She'd cross-referenced the names with current NavSpecWar personnel. Morrison had retired in 2018. Reyes had died in a training accident in 2017, suspicious timing. But Hardwick remained active, Deputy Commander. Access to everything. Her father had been right, and it had killed him. Elena closed her eyes and made a silent vow. I'm coming for you, Hardwick. You're going to pay for every handler you killed, every family you destroyed, every life you sold for money. 3 more weeks. Then the real hunt began. Hell Week resumed the next morning. 18 candidates remained from the original 36. The Bell had claimed another 3 overnight men who'd reached the breaking point in their sleep and decided death was preferable to 1 more hour of cold water. Elena took her place in formation ribs, screaming with every breath. Brennan walked past her without the usual scrutiny. No extra punishment, no targeting, just the standard Hell Week brutality that applied to everyone equally. It felt wrong. 6 weeks of being singled out had conditioned her to expect attack from that quarter. The absence of it created a vacuum that her tactical mind filled with worse scenarios. Candidate Marcus Graham approached during a brief rest period, the man Elena had pulled from 8 feet of water, unconscious and drowning. Thorne, got a minute? Elena nodded. I never thanked you properly for the rescue. Graham's voice was quiet. I was dead, should have been dead. You brought me back. You'd have done the same. Maybe, but I don't have whatever training you have. That dive, that rescue, I've never seen anything like it. He paused. I don't know who you really are. Don't care. But I want you to know whatever you need, whenever you need it, I've got your back. Why? Graham met her eyes. Because you risked your life to save mine when you could have let me drown. That kind of thing creates a debt, and I always pay my debts. He walked away before Elena could respond. Another ally. Another person willing to stand between her and Hardwick's cleanup crew. The pieces were moving into position. Day 5 of Hell Week brought the boat crew evolution that nearly killed them all. Rough surf, dangerous conditions, waves coming in sets that could flip a zodiac like a toy. Elena's crew fought through the surf zone, every muscle burning, every breath a conscious effort. The other candidates moved with the mechanical efficiency of men too exhausted to think, operating on autopilot and sheer stubbornness. They made it through, barely. On the beach, Instructor Webb watched them stagger ashore. 48 hours left. Half of you won't make it. The question is which half? That night, Declan Murphy found Elena during a rare moment alone. The other candidates had collapsed in whatever position they'd been standing. Elena sat with her back against a concrete barrier, eyes open, mind cataloging threats. You don't sleep much, Murphy observed. Sleep is when people die. Murphy sat beside her. I've been thinking about those men who came for you, the cleanup crew. And my own, and I recognize one of them, the leader. I've seen him before in Afghanistan. Different name then, but same face. Murphy's voice dropped. He was running wet work for someone high up in SOCOM, jobs that never made it into official reports. I thought he'd been discharged after Kabul fell. Apparently not. The thing is, Thorne, he's good, really good. The kind of operator who makes problems disappear without leaving evidence. Murphy met her eyes. If he's working for whoever killed your father, you're in more danger than Blackwell realizes. Elena absorbed this. What was the name he used in Afghanistan? Call sign was Reaper. Real name I never knew. But he ran a team that specialized in making high-value targets vanish. Enemy combatants, corrupt officials, anyone who needed to disappear permanently. And now he's working for Hardwick. If Hardwick's your guy, yeah. Which means he's probably killed before. Probably killed handlers before. Murphy pulled out his phone. I took a picture during the standoff. Figured it might be useful. He showed Elena the screen. The cleanup crew leader's face captured in profile as he'd retreated to the SUV. Elena memorized every detail. The scar above his left eyebrow, the way he carried his weight forward ready to move, the cold calculation in his eyes. Send that to Garrett, she said. He might be able to identify him through old mission files. Already did. Also sent it to some buddies still active in the Ranger Regiment. See if anyone recognizes him. Murphy pocketed the phone. One more thing. Graham's not the only candidate who's noticed you're different. Word's spreading. People are asking questions. What kind of questions? The kind that wonder why a veterinary technician can execute combat diver rescues and keep her cool when attack dogs should be tearing her apart. He paused. I've been running interference, but you should know people are paying attention. Elena nodded. Let them pay attention. 3 weeks left. Then it won't matter. Unless Hardwick makes his move before then, he won't. How can you be sure? Elena's smile held no warmth. Because I'm still useful to him alive. As long as he thinks I might lead him to whatever evidence my father collected, he'll keep me breathing. It's only when I become more dangerous than useful that he'll try to kill me. And you're planning to become more dangerous than useful. That's exactly what I'm planning. Murphy stood. Then I guess we better make sure you survive long enough to do it. The final 2 days of Hell Week blurred together into a nightmare of cold water and exhausted movement. Candidates dropped at steady intervals. The bell rang 8 more times. Men who'd survived 5 days finally breaking under the cumulative weight. Elena endured. Not because she was stronger, but because she'd been broken before in ways buds couldn't replicate. Syria had taught her that pain was temporary. Yemen had taught her that exhaustion was a choice. The death of her father had taught her that survival was an obligation to the dead. When Hell Week ended Saturday morning, 12 candidates remained standing. Elena was one of them. Brennan watched her cross the finish line with an expression that might have been respect. He approached as the medical staff began evaluations. You made it, Thorne. Yes, Senior Chief. Your father would be proud. The words hit harder than any punishment evolution. Elena felt her throat tighten, but she kept her voice steady. Thank you, Senior Chief. Brennan lowered his voice. Garrett told me what Marcus was investigating. What he found. What it cost him. He met her eyes. I'm sorry for targeting you, for not seeing what you really were, for making this harder than it needed to be. You didn't know. I should have. He glanced around, making sure no one else was listening. Those men who came for you, Garrett's been digging. The leader's name is Vance Keller, no relation to the Admiral. Former Delta discharged under suspicious circumstances in 2015. He's been working private sector since then. Security consulting, they call it. Wet work, everyone knows it really is. Hardwick hired him. That's the theory, but we can't prove it. Not yet. Brennan's jaw tightened. The thing is, Thorne Keller's good at what he does. Really good. He's killed at least 7 people we know about, all made to look like accidents or enemy action. If he's the one who took down your father's helicopter, then I need to be better. Brennan studied her. You planning to kill him? I'm planning to get justice for my father, whatever that takes. That's not an answer. Elena met his stare. It's the only answer I have. The 2 weeks after Hell Week were supposed to be recovery, reduced intensity, medical evaluations, preparation for the next phase. But Elena spent every free moment investigating. She'd smuggled a laptop into the barracks, hidden it in a waterproof case buried in her gear. Late at night, while the other candidates slept, she'd pull it out and dig through whatever classified databases she could access with her Wolfpack credentials. The pattern became clearer with every search. 7 handlers dead over 15 years. All of them had rotated through NAV-SPECWAR headquarters in the 6 months before their deaths. All of them had worked on missions that would have given them knowledge of classified operations, the kind of knowledge that would be valuable to foreign intelligence services. Elena found the financial records her father had mentioned, buried deep in shell corporations and offshore accounts, but there if you knew where to look. Payments totaling $2, $3 million over 30 years, all flowing to a company called Apex Strategic Solutions. She ran Apex through every database she could access. It came back clean, too clean. The kind of clean that only happened when someone with serious resources had scrubbed the records. But she found one thread, a payment from Apex to a security contractor in 2016, the same month her father died. The contractor's name, Keller Security Consulting. The pieces were connecting. Master Chief Garrett visited her barracks one night, off the books after the other candidates had gone to sleep. Elena met him outside and they walked to the beach where no surveillance could reach them. I got Murphy's photo identified, Garrett said. Vance Keller, former Delta Force, now private contractor. He's been implicated in at least 4 suspicious deaths of special operations personnel, but nothing ever stuck. Too well connected. Hardwick's cleaner. That's what it looks like. But here's the thing, I found a pattern in the deaths Keller's been linked to. Every single victim had been investigating corruption or classified program irregularities. Your father wasn't the first operator to get too close to something someone wanted buried. Elena absorbed this. Hayes too. Hayes too. She was investigating the same thing your father was, the money trail showing someone was selling Wolfpack intelligence. 3 weeks before she died, she met with an IG investigator. 2 weeks later, the investigator was killed in a car accident. 1 week after that, Hayes died in an ambush. Keller, can't prove it. But the timeline fits his operational pattern. Quick succession of eliminations when someone gets close to exposing him or his employer. They walked in silence for a moment, the Pacific rolling in steady sets against the sand. I found the financial records, Elena said. My father was right. Someone's been getting paid for 30 years. Apex Strategic Solutions, it's a front company. But they made a payment to Keller Security Consulting in 2016, same month my father died. Garrett stopped walking. You can prove the connection between Apex and Keller. I can prove money flowed from Apex to Keller. What I can't prove is that Hardwick controls Apex. Not yet. But you will. Yes. Elena's voice carried absolute certainty. When I get assigned to NAV-SPECWAR HQ, I'll have access to financial records that aren't available now. Flag officer expense accounts, classified program funding. If Hardwick's been taking money from Apex, there'll be a trail. Might be buried, might be well hidden, but it'll exist. Garrett pulled something from his jacket. A small device that looked like a USB drive, but was something more sophisticated. This is a data collector, military grade, completely undetectable by standard security sweeps. When you get inside HQ, you plug this into any classified terminal. It'll copy everything on the network, emails, financial records, personnel files, everything. Then you pull it out and bring it to me. We analyze the data to find the connections. Elena took the device. This is highly illegal. So is selling operational intelligence that gets American operators killed. Garrett met her eyes. Your father died trying to expose this conspiracy. Hayes died trying to finish what he started. You want justice for them? This is how you get it. But Elena, if Hardwick catches you, if anyone catches you using that device, you'll go to Leavenworth for the rest of your life. I understand. Because once you plug that in, there's no going back. You'll have committed a crime that even your Wolfpack credentials won't protect you from. Elena thought about her father, about holding Hayes as she died, about 7 other handlers whose families got folded flags and lies. I understand, she said again. And I'm doing it anyway. Garrett nodded slowly. Then you're more like Marcus than I realized. He knew the risks too. Went ahead anyway because it was the right thing to do. And it killed him. Yes, it did. Garrett's voice went soft. Which is why I'm going to make damn sure it doesn't kill you. Whatever evidence you collect, whatever risks you take, I'll be right there backing you up. You're not alone in this, Elena. Not anymore. They walked back toward the barracks in silence. The device felt heavy in Elena's pocket, heavier than its physical weight. It represented a line she was about to cross. From operator following orders to operator breaking every rule to get justice. Her father would have approved. Week 6 brought the announcement Elena had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Today's evolution, Brennan said during morning formation. K9 stress inoculation. We're doing this right this time. All candidates will spend time in controlled environment with military working dogs. Learn how to work alongside K9 units in operational environments. His eyes found Elena. There was warning there. Preparation. Candidate Thorne, you'll demonstrate first. Show the class how it's done. Elena understood. This was Brennan's way of giving her credibility, of explaining to the other candidates why the dogs hadn't attacked her before. By making it a demonstration instead of a test, he was controlling the narrative. Smart. She walked to the K9 compound with the entire class following. Garrett waited at the gate with the 6 Belgian Malinois, all of them alert and focused. Candidate Thorne will demonstrate proper approach and interaction protocol with trained military working dogs, Brennan announced. Pay attention. This might save your life downrange. Elena entered the kennel. The dogs recognized her immediately, tails wagging, bodies relaxed, the aggression evaporating the moment she stepped inside. She worked with each one, showing the candidates how to read canine body language, how to establish trust, how to move in ways that didn't trigger defensive responses. It was a masterclass in handler techniques that most of these candidates would never need. But it served a purpose. It explained why Elena Thorne, veterinary technician, had special knowledge that didn't match her cover story. After the evolution, candidate Graham approached her. That was impressive. Where'd you learn all that? Worked with military working dogs at Fort Benning. Spent 3 years in the program before cross-training to Navy. It was the cover story, the lie she'd been living for 6 weeks. But now it had supporting evidence. The other candidates had seen her interact with the dogs, had seen the expertise that came from real experience. The cognitive dissonance between veterinary technician and combat operator started to resolve in their minds. She wasn't just a candidate. She was someone with specialized skills from a different part of the military world. That night, Murphy pulled her aside. Smooth, the demonstration. Brennan's giving you a way to explain things without exposing yourself. I noticed. The other candidates are buying it. Most of them anyway. There's still whispers about the underwater rescue, but the dog thing makes you seem more like a specialist than an operator. Good, that's the point. Murphy leaned against the barracks wall. 2 weeks left, then graduation. Then you disappear into NavSpecWar HQ, and we never hear from you again. That's not how it works. Isn't it? You're going undercover to catch a traitor. That's not the kind of mission that comes with regular updates. He met her eyes. I'm just saying we've got your back now. But once you leave here, you'll be on your own. Elena thought about the data collector in her gear, about the mission ahead, about walking into the lion's den with nothing but her wits and a promise to the dead. I've been on my own before, she said quietly. I know how to survive it. The final 2 weeks of training blurred together. Demolitions, combat medicine, small unit tactics, everything a SEAL needed to know compressed into 14 days of intensive instruction. Elena excelled. Not because she was pretending anymore, but because Brennan had stopped forcing her to hide. She could use the skills Wolfpack had taught her without worrying about exposing her cover. The other candidates noticed, started treating her with the respect reserved for operators who'd proven themselves under fire. On the last day of training, Commander Blackwell called her to his office. 2 days until graduation, he said. I've arranged your assignment to NavSpecWar HQ. You'll be working as an intelligence liaison, coordinating between SEAL teams and higher command. It's a real position with real responsibilities. But it also gives you access to the files you need. Admiral Hardwick, he'll be your direct supervisor. Blackwell's expression was grim. I couldn't avoid it without raising suspicion. He specifically requested you for the position after seeing your BUD/S performance records. Elena felt ice water replace the blood in her veins. He knows. He suspects. which means you need to be very, very careful. Hardwick's been playing this game for 30 years. He's survived investigations, survived suspicions, survived everything that should have brought him down. He's smart, patient, and absolutely ruthless. Then I'll need to be smarter. Blackwell studied her. Your father said the same thing, 3 days before his helicopter crashed. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I'm not my father, Elena said. I know what I'm walking into. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're a 24-year-old SEAL candidate about to go up against a man who's killed at least 7 trained operators without leaving enough evidence to prosecute. The odds aren't in your favor. The odds never are. Elena stood. But I'm doing this anyway. For my father, for Hayes, for every handler who died because someone sold them out. Blackwell nodded slowly. Then understand this. Once you're at HQ, I can't protect you, can't intervene without exposing the investigation. You'll be alone in enemy territory surrounded by people who report to Hardwick. One mistake, one slip, and you'll disappear just like your father did. I understand. I hope you do. He handed her a folder. Your official orders. Report to NavSpecWar HQ 1 week after graduation. That gives you 7 days to prepare. Use them wisely. Elena took the folder. Inside was her future, her mission, her chance to finish what her father started. One more thing, Blackwell said as she moved toward the door. Garrett gave you something, a device for collecting data. Elena froze. I know about it because I approved it. Off the books, completely deniable if things go wrong. But Elena, that device is your nuclear option. You use it once, maybe twice maximum, before Hardwick's security sweeps detect the data transfer. Choose your moment carefully. I will. And when you do use it, when you collect whatever evidence you need, you get out immediately. Don't wait. Don't try to gather more. You take what you have, and you disappear before Hardwick realizes what happened. Elena nodded and left the office with the weight of the mission settling onto shoulders that had carried plenty of weight before. 2 days later, she stood in dress uniform at the Trident ceremony. 15 candidates remained from the original 36. Families filled the viewing area. Cameras captured every moment. Commander Blackwell gave the speech. The same words he'd given to hundreds of classes before, but with additions that made this graduation different. Among these warriors is Petty Officer Elena Thorne. Her journey to this moment has been unlike any other in this program's history. Elena felt every eye turned toward her. She came here to honor a promise made to Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes, who believed that combat handlers could complete the SEAL pipeline. Lieutenant Hayes died before seeing that vision realized. Petty Officer Thorne completes it today for Hayes and for her father, Staff Sergeant Marcus Thorne, who gave his life serving this nation. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elena's cover was being deliberately burned, replaced with a new narrative that was closer to truth, but still protected the classified details. One by one, candidates stepped forward to receive their tridents. When Elena's name was called, Senior Chief Cade Brennan stepped forward to pin her trident himself. He leaned close as the metal touched her chest. I was wrong about you, Petty Officer Thorne. Your father would be proud. His voice dropped to a whisper. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Elena met his eyes. Thank you, Senior Chief, for protecting me when it mattered. Brennan stepped back, saluted. She returned it. Master Chief Garrett stood in the front row, tears streaming down his weathered face. Freya sat at his side, gray muzzle resting on his knee. After the ceremony, Garrett pulled Elena aside and handed her something. Her father's dog tags. Marcus gave these to me before his last operation. Said if anything happened, give these to Elena when she becomes a SEAL. Elena held them, her hands shaking. He knew I'd follow his path. He always knew, just hoped you'd be smarter about it than he was. Garrett's smile was sad. But I see now you're exactly like him, which means you're going to finish what he started no matter the cost. I promised. I know you did. Garrett gripped her shoulder. And I'm going to make damn sure you survive long enough to keep it. In the back of the crowd, a figure watched with cold calculation. Admiral Vance Hardwick stood in dress uniform, his expression revealing nothing. He'd come personally to assess the threat, to see if Marcus Thorne's daughter was really as dangerous as the report suggested. His phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. She graduates. What now? Hardwick typed back with steady fingers. She's assigned to HQ as planned. We'll handle her there. Quietly, like the others. He pocketed the phone and left before anyone noticed him. But Elena had seen him, had felt his presence like a cold wind across her skin. The hunt was beginning. The predator and prey were about to switch positions. And somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled across the Pacific, promising storms ahead. 7 days between graduation and assignment felt like 7 years. Elena spent them preparing for a mission that had no training manual, no operational plan, no guarantee of survival. She memorized everything Garrett had collected over 7 years of investigation. Financial records, death reports, mission logs from handlers who'd rotated through NavSpecWar headquarters in the months before they died. The pattern was there if you knew how to read it, a constellation of deaths that looked random until you connected them with a single point of origin. Admiral Vance Hardwick. On the 6th day, Garrett visited her apartment off base. He brought files that didn't officially exist. This is everything I've got on Hardwick. 32 years of service, impeccable record, decorated combat veteran from Desert Storm. Garrett spread the papers across her kitchen table. On paper, he's exactly what a flag officer should be. But look closer. Elena studied the timeline. Hardwick had been assigned to NavSpecWar headquarters in 2001. The first handler death occurred 6 months later. He'd been promoted to deputy commander in 2015. The deaths accelerated after that, 3 and 18 months. He's getting bolder, she said, or more desperate. When your father started investigating, Hardwick had already been running this scheme for 15 years. He had systems in place, protocols. But Marcus was good, better than Hardwick expected. He found connections that should have stayed buried. Garrett pulled out a photograph. Marcus Thorne in desert camouflage, 26 years old, with his K9 partner Odin. The same photo Elena kept beside her bed. Your father was 3 days from exposing Hardwick when his helicopter went down. He had banking records showing payments from Apex Strategic Solutions to offshore accounts. He had communication intercepts proving someone at NavSpecWar was feeding operational intelligence to foreign services. What he didn't have was the final link proof that Hardwick controlled Apex. That's what I'm going to find. Garrett met her eyes. And if you can't, if the evidence doesn't exist or Hardwick's buried it too deep, then I'll make him expose himself, push him into a mistake. That's dangerous thinking. It's the only thinking that works against someone this careful. Elena touched her father's dog tags now hanging around her neck beneath her uniform. Hardwick's weakness is his arrogance. He's been untouchable for 30 years. He thinks he's smarter than everyone. I'm going to use that against him. The next morning, Elena reported to NavSpecWar headquarters for the first time. The building looked like every other military administrative complex, concrete and glass American flag security checkpoints that processed hundreds of personnel daily. She cleared security with her new credentials. The guard barely glanced at her ID before waving her through, just another junior officer joining the administrative machinery. Admiral Hardwick's office occupied the 3rd floor. Elena made her way through corridors that felt too clean, too sterile. Everything here was designed to project order and discipline. Nothing suggested that somewhere in these halls a man was selling American operators to their deaths. His aide directed her to a conference room. The Admiral will see you shortly. Please wait here. Elena sat in a chair that faced the door. Old habits. Never put your back to an entrance. She studied the room, standard Navy conference setup. Nothing personal, nothing that revealed anything about the man she was hunting. The door opened precisely 15 minutes later. Hardwick entered with the bearing of someone who'd spent 3 decades commanding respect through presence alone. 64 years old, silver hair, cut to regulation-length uniform, pressed to knife edges. Petty Officer Thorne. His voice carried the smooth warmth of a man practiced at appearing trustworthy. Congratulations on completing BUD/S. Quite an accomplishment, especially given your unique background. Thank you, sir. Hardwick sat across from her, his movements deliberate and controlled. I knew your father, Marcus Thorne. Excellent handler. His death was a tremendous loss to the program. The words landed like acid on an open wound. Elena kept her face neutral through sheer force of will. Yes, sir, it was. I understand you're following in his footsteps. Handler integration proving that operators with K9 backgrounds can excel in SEAL teams. Hardwick smiled. It's exactly the kind of forward-thinking initiative we need. He was probing, testing her reactions, seeing if she knew anything beyond the official story. My father believed handlers could be operators, sir. I'm here to prove he was right. And Lieutenant Hayes, I understand she was your mentor before her unfortunate death. She taught me everything I know about handler operations, sir. Hardwick studied her with eyes that had seen too much and revealed too little. I'm assigning you to the Special Programs Division. You'll be coordinating between SEAL teams and higher command managing classified operational data. It's sensitive work that requires absolute discretion. I understand, sir. Do you, Hardwick leaned forward slightly. Because this position will give you access to files that most officers will never see. Mission reports, personnel records, financial data for black programs, the kind of information that in the wrong hands could compromise national security. The threat was implicit but clear. He was telling her exactly what she'd have access to and warning her what would happen if she abused it. I take operational security seriously, sir. My Wolfpack clearances required the highest level of discretion. Of course, Hardwick stood. My aide will get you set up with access credentials. Welcome to Nav Specwar Headquarters, Petty Officer Thorne. I look forward to working with you. He left before she could respond. The conversation had lasted exactly 7 minutes, long enough for him to assess the threat and issue his warning. Short enough to maintain plausible deniability about knowing who she really was. Elena sat alone in the conference room and felt the trap close around her. Hardwick knew, maybe not everything, but enough. He'd assigned her to special programs specifically to watch her, to see what she'd access, to catch her the moment she stepped out of line. She pulled out her phone and texted Garrett a single word. Compromised. The response came 30 seconds later. Expected. Proceed carefully. 6 months crawled past like decades. Elena worked her cover, perfectly diligent junior officer, grateful for the opportunity, eager to prove herself worthy of the assignment. She processed classified reports, coordinated operational data, attended briefings where flag officers discussed missions that would never appear in newspapers. And she watched. She listened. She learned the rhythms of Nav Specwar headquarters, the patterns of who talked to whom, the flow of information through channels both official and shadow. Hardwick was careful. Everything he did looked legitimate. Every decision he made served plausible operational purposes. But Elena had spent 6 months in Hell Week being broken by an instructor who thought she didn't belong. She knew how to read the spaces between actions, the silence that revealed more than words. Hardwick met with the same 3 contractors every month. Always off-site, always locations that rotated. Elena couldn't get close enough to record conversations, but she documented every meeting, times, places, the license plates of vehicles used. She cross-referenced the contractors with Keller Security Consulting. 2 of them had worked for Keller at various points in their careers. The third had been implicated in, but never charged with selling classified information in 2012. The pieces were there, but proving the connection required evidence that Elena couldn't access from her current position. She needed to use the data collector, and she needed to do it soon before Hardwick decided she'd seen too much. Master Chief Garrett had retired 2 months after Elena's graduation. Officially retired. In reality, he'd simply moved his investigation off the books, operating from an apartment in San Diego where he could monitor NavSpec Warehouse without official oversight. Elena met him there every 2 weeks. Different times, different routes, never a pattern that surveillance could track. I'm ready to make my move, she told him during their meeting in month 6. Hardwick's been sloppy lately, confident. He's accessing financial files more frequently, probably moving money before the fiscal year audit. Garrett studied the surveillance photos she'd collected. You're sure about the timing? As sure as I can be. He's vulnerable right now. If I can get into his system while he's accessing these accounts, the data collector will capture everything. Banking credentials, transaction records, communications with Apex Strategic Solutions. And if he catches you, Elena met his eyes, then you use whatever I manage to transmit before he shuts me down. Even partial data is better than nothing. Elena, we both know this was always a one-way mission, Garrett. The moment I plugged that device in, I was committed. Better to do it now while I still have access than wait until Hardwick decides I'm more liability than asset. Garrett pulled something from his desk drawer, a backup phone untraceable loaded with encrypted communication apps. When you make your move, you call this number immediately after extraction. Don't go home. Don't go anywhere predictable. There's a safe house in Oceanside address is programmed in the phone. You get there, you wait, and we'll extract you properly. Extract me where, if this works, Hardwick goes down. I won't need to hide. And if it doesn't work, you'll need to disappear before his cleanup crew finds you. Garrett's voice was heavy. I lost your father because I wasn't prepared for how far Hardwick would go. I won't lose you the same way. Elena took the phone. What about Brennan, Blackwell, Murphy, and the others? Already briefed. They know something's happening soon. When you make your move, they'll be ready to provide support. But Elena, you need to understand, The moment you access those files, every alarm in NavSpecWar security is going to activate. You'll have maybe 3 minutes before they lock down the building, maybe 5 if the system lags. After that, you're trapped inside with Hardwick's people. 3 minutes is enough. It better be, because if they catch you inside that building with classified data on an unauthorized device, even Commander Blackwell won't be able to protect you. 2 weeks later, the opportunity presented itself. Hardwick scheduled an emergency meeting with his 3 contractors. Same day, same time. The kind of coordination that only happened when something had gone wrong or was about to go very right. Elena volunteered for night duty at headquarters. Standard practice for junior officers, someone had to monitor the classified communication channels even after normal working hours ended. By 2200 hours, the building was nearly empty. Skeleton security staff, a handful of watch officers. Everyone else had gone home to families and lives that didn't involve state secrets. Elena waited until 2300, then made her move. Hardwick's office was locked, but she'd spent 6 months studying the security systems. The electronic locks were old technology designed when cybersecurity meant keeping Russians out of networks, not keeping operators with Wolfpack. Training out of offices. She bypassed the lock in 45 seconds. The door opened silently. She'd oiled the hinges 3 days ago during a routine maintenance window. Inside Hardwick's office revealed the man behind the flag officer facade. Spartan. Disciplined. A desk with nothing personal except a single photo frame turned away from the door. Elena moved to his computer. It was powered down, standard security protocol, but she'd watched him log in enough times to know his patterns. First 3 letters of his deceased wife's name, last 4 digits of his service number. Not creative, but effective against anyone who didn't have 6 months to study him. The system booted. She entered the credentials. The desktop loaded with administrative efficiency, and there in a folder labeled Program Oversight were the files that would end Vance Hardwick's career and avenge 7 dead handlers. Elena plugged in the data collector. The device activated silently, its interface appearing as a small window in the corner of the screen. Transfer initiated. Estimated time 4 minutes. The minutes stretched like wire pulled taut. Elena's eyes tracked the progress bar, while her mind calculated escape routes. The window behind her, 3 stories up, reinforced glass. The ventilation shaft in the ceiling, too small. The door she'd entered, now her only exit. 1 minute elapsed. She pulled up Hardwick's email archive. Found correspondence with Apex Strategic Solutions dating back to 2001. Found payment confirmations. Found operational intelligence packages sent to anonymous recipients with Russian email domains. 2 minutes. A security sweep showed her access logged as Thorn E, Special Programs Auth. Standard night duty. Nothing that would trigger immediate alerts. But someone was watching. Someone always was. Her hands moved across the keyboard with practiced efficiency, copying files to a hidden partition while the data collector worked its magic in the background. 2.5 minutes. The building's ventilation system hummed its usual rhythm. Footsteps passed in the corridor outside security making rounds. Elena froze, hand hovering over the keyboard. The footsteps continued past. Didn't slow, didn't stop. She exhaled and kept working. 3 minutes. 95% complete. That's when she heard it. The elevator at the end of the hall descending when it should have been locked for the night. Someone with override access. Someone coming to this floor. Her training screamed abort. Pull the device. Destroy the evidence. Run. But she was 3 moves ahead. Had always been 3 moves ahead. 3.5 minutes, 98%. The elevator doors opened. Multiple footsteps. Not security. Security moved in pairs. This was 4, maybe 5 operators. Tactical movement. Professional. Hardwick's cleanup crew. They were early. Earlier than her calculations predicted. Someone had been monitoring her access in real time. The footsteps reached the outer office door. Data collector showed 99%. Elena's hand hovered over the device, ready to yank it free. 100%. Transfer complete. She pulled the device and pocketed it just as the door to the inner office opened. Vance Keller stood in the doorway with 3 operators behind him. The same cleanup crew that had tried to take her at Coronado. The same men who'd probably killed her father. Elena Thorne, Keller's voice carried the flat affect of a professional killer. Step away from the computer. Elena raised her hands slowly, backing toward the window. I was just checking files for tomorrow's briefing. At the Admiral's personal computer, using his credentials. Keller moved into the room, his team spreading to cut off escape routes. I don't think so. This is a misunderstanding. If you'll just let me explain. The Admiral wants to see you. He's very interested in what you've been accessing. Keller's hand moved to his sidearm. You can come voluntarily or we can make this difficult. Your choice, Michelle. Elena calculated odds. 4 trained operators, armed, between her and the only exit. She was good but not good enough to fight through that. I'll come voluntarily. Smart. Keller gestured to his men. Secure her. Full restraints. They moved forward with zip ties and professional efficiency. Elena didn't resist as they bound her wrists. The data collector sat in her pocket, its job complete. Everything else was secondary to protecting that device. They walked her through empty corridors to an elevator that descended to basement levels, not marked on any official building schematic. Black site territory. The places where enhanced interrogation happened and nobody asked questions. The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto concrete walls and fluorescent lighting that felt like something from a different era. Admiral Vance Hardwick waited in a windowless room. He'd changed from his dress uniform into civilian clothes, button-down shirt, slacks, no rank insignia. Just a man about to do things he couldn't do while wearing the flag. Leave us, he told Keller. Sir, she's dangerous. I said leave us. Hardwick's voice carried absolute authority. Wait outside. If I need you, I'll call. Keller hesitated, then withdrew with his team. The door locked with electronic finality. Elena stood with her hands bound, facing the man who'd killed her father. Hardwick studied her the way a scientist might study an interesting specimen. You're very good, better than Marcus even. He never made it this far. You killed him. I eliminated a threat to operational security. Your father was investigating things beyond his clearance level. So was Lieutenant Hayes. They gave me no choice. Hardwick walked slowly around her. Now you've done the same thing. Accessed my files. Stolen classified data. Do you have any idea how many laws you've broken? Do you have any idea how many operators you've killed? Hardwick stopped in front of her. 7, over 30 years. All of them because they couldn't leave well enough alone. They found pieces of the truth and thought themselves heroes for exposing it. But they didn't understand the bigger picture. What bigger picture? You sold American handlers to foreign intelligence for money. I sold information that was going to leak anyway. Better to control the leaks, profit from them, than let some other opportunist do it. Hardwick's expression never changed. The money I received funded operations that Congress would never approve. Black programs that saved American lives. I'm not a traitor, Petty Officer Thorne. I'm a pragmatist. You're a murderer. I'm a survivor. He pulled out his phone and Elena saw her death in the casual way he handled it. This man had killed before. Would kill again. Viewed her as just another problem to be eliminated. Your father sat in this same room 7 years ago. Hardwick gestured to a chair Elena refused to sit in. We had a similar conversation. He told me he had evidence. Banking records, communications, proof that would destroy me. He did have proof. He had pieces, fragments, nothing that connected me directly to Apex. That's why he needed one more meeting, the contact who supposedly had the final link. Hardwick's smile was clinical. The contact worked for me. Always did. I let Marcus get close enough to feel like he was winning. Then I took it all away. Elena's hands clenched behind her back, the zip ties cutting into her wrists. The helicopter crash wasn't mechanical failure. Keller's team planted charges in the fuel system. Timed detonation at altitude. By the time the wreckage hit the ground, there was nothing left to investigate. Hardwick walked behind her. Your father died thinking he'd failed. Thinking he'd let down every handler who came before him. You're wrong, Elena's voice stayed level. He died knowing his daughter would finish it. Did he? Hardwick came back around to face her. Because from what I understand, you were 17 when he died, a child. He had no idea you'd follow his path, no idea you'd become Wolfpack. He knew exactly what I'd become. That's why he gave Garrett the encrypted transmission. That's why he documented everything. He was 3 moves ahead of you. Always was. Hardwick's expression flickered. Just for a second. Doubt. You're bluffing. Am I? Because if I'm bluffing, why did you send Keller's team to grab me tonight? Why not just let me finish my shift and go home? Why the emergency response? Silence. Say, you're afraid, Elena said quietly. For the first time in 30 years, you're actually afraid. Because you know I got into your files. You know I copied everything, and you know that somewhere out there, Garrett has the evidence ready to transmit the moment I don't check in. Hardwick pulled his sidearm. Then I'll have to make sure you don't become a problem. You think killing me solves this? Garrett has everything. Brennan knows. Blackwell knows. Murphy and his team know. You kill me, you just prove you have something to hide. Nobody knows anything, and even if they did, they can't prove it came from my files. You're the only link. Once you're gone, the lights cut out, emergency systems activated, bathing everything in red. Gunfire erupted somewhere above them. Not the controlled bursts of a firefight, the disciplined shooting of operators eliminating targets. Hardwick grabbed Elena, using her as a shield. Get me out of here, now. Keller moved to the door, weapon raised. He opened it carefully, scanning the corridor beyond. Master Chief William Garrett stood in the hallway with a shotgun pointed at Keller's center mass. Beside him, Senior Chief Cade Brennan held an M4 with the casual competence of someone who'd used one in every combat zone America had fought in for 20 years. Behind them, Declan Murphy and 5 other BUD/S graduates spread across the corridor in tactical formation. Let her go, Admiral. Garrett's voice carried absolute certainty. This ends now. Hardwick pressed his sidearm against Elena's temple. I'll kill her. Right here, right now. No, you won't. Because the moment you pull that trigger, my people will cut you down. And you're too much a coward to die for this. Hardwick's hand trembled. 30 years of control fracturing in real time. Elena spoke quietly. It's over. I got the files, banking records, communications. Everything. Even if you kill me, Garrett has copies. The evidence goes to NCIS tonight. By morning, every news outlet in America will know what you've done. You're bluffing. Am I? Elena met his eyes in the reflection of the metal door. My father taught me to play chess. Never make a move unless you're 3 moves ahead. I've been 3 moves ahead of you since I arrived at Coronado. Hardwick's grip loosened. Just slightly. Just enough. Elena drove her elbow backward into his solar plexus, twisted away from the gun, and dropped to the floor as Garrett's shotgun roared. The blast took Hardwick in the shoulder, spinning him against the wall. His weapon clattered to the concrete. Keller raised his pistol toward Garrett, but Brennan put 2 rounds through his chest before he could fire. The cleanup crew leader dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Murphy and his team swept the room, securing the space with practiced efficiency. Garrett cut Elena's restraints with a tactical knife. You okay? Better now. She pulled the data collector from her pocket. Everything's here. 30 years of evidence. Enough to put him away forever. Hardwick slumped against the wall, blood spreading across his shirt. You can't prove anything. I have lawyers, connections. You're just a junior officer with a stolen device and a vendetta. Wrong. Commander Stratton Blackwell entered the room with a full security team and NCIS agents. I'm a base commander with a federal warrant and a congressional investigation committee waiting for your testimony. Admiral Vance Hardwick, you're under arrest for espionage, conspiracy to commit murder, treason, and the murders of 7 Wolfpack operators, including Staff Sergeant Marcus Thorne and Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes. The NCIS agents moved forward with restraints. Hardwick didn't resist. The fight had gone out of him the moment he realized Elena had won. As they hauled him toward the elevator, he looked back at her. Your father would be proud. He was right about you. Right about everything. I know, Elena said. That's why you're going to spend the rest of your life in Leavenworth thinking about it. They took him away. The corridor emptied slowly as security teams processed the scene. Elena stood with Garrett, Brennan, and Murphy in the aftermath. 6 months of investigation. 7 years of Garrett's work. 30 years of conspiracy ended in a basement that would be scrubbed from official existence by morning. How did you know, Elena asked Garrett. How did you know to come tonight? You think I'd let you walk into a trap without backup? I've had teams watching this building since the day you started work here. The moment Keller's crew entered, we activated. Garrett squeezed her shoulder. I told you before I lost your father because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't losing you too. Brennan checked his weapon, clearing the chamber with muscle memory. Those files you collected, they're enough. More than enough. Hardwick kept records of everything, names, dates, payments. The whole conspiracy documented like a business ledger. Elena pulled out her phone and showed them the backup she'd transmitted to Garrett's secure server. Even if he'd destroyed the originals, we have copies in 3 separate locations. He's done. Murphy leaned against the wall, adrenaline fading into exhaustion. What happens now? Now the real work begins. Commander Blackwell rejoined them. Congressional hearings, criminal trials, a complete investigation into how one man operated a treason network for 30 years without detection. He looked at Elena. You'll be testifying a lot. Your cover as a junior officer just ended. By tomorrow, every news outlet will know your real story. I can handle it. I know you can. But Elena, your father, and Lieutenant Hayes both died trying to expose this. You survived. That's going to make you a symbol. For handler integration. For operators who fight corruption. For everyone who believes the system can be fixed. Blackwell paused. Are you ready for that? Elena thought about her father, about Hayes bleeding out in a helicopter, about 7 other handlers whose families deserve justice. I'm ready. The investigation took 8 months. Congressional hearings that filled C-SPAN for weeks. Criminal trials that exposed 30 years of treason to public scrutiny. NCIS forensic accountants traced every payment from Apex Strategic Solutions to Hardwick's offshore accounts, $2.3 million over 3 decades, each transaction corresponding to a handler's death or a sold mission package. Vance Keller had died in that basement, 2 rounds through the chest before he could raise his weapon. The 3 other cleanup crew members took plea deals testifying against Hardwick in exchange for reduced sentences. Their testimony filled in gaps. Even Elena's data collector hadn't captured specific missions, compromised specific handlers, targeted specific foreign intelligence services who'd paid for American blood. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Elena testified for 4 days straight, walking the jury through every piece of evidence, banking records, telecommunications, her father's final transmission. The moment she played Marcus Thorne's voice in that courtroom, "Garrett, if you're hearing this, I'm probably dead." 3 jurors wept openly. Hardwick showed no emotion, never spoke in his own defense. His lawyers tried every procedural maneuver, every technicality, every delay tactic in the federal playbook. It didn't matter. The jury deliberated 90 minutes, guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole. As they led him from the courtroom in shackles, Hardwick looked at Elena one final time. Not with hatred, not with defiance, with something that might have been respect. "Your father would be proud," he said. Elena didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. 6 years later, Lieutenant Commander Elena Thorne stood at the podium of the Naval Special Warfare Symposium at Coronado, the same compound where she'd been thrown to attack dogs by an instructor who thought she didn't belong, the same beach where she'd survived Hell Week, the same place where everything had begun. The audience filled every seat: commanders, admirals, SEAL team leaders, and 47 graduates of the Handler Integration Program she'd built from nothing. Master Chief William Garrett sat in the front row, 74 years old now, officially retired, but serving as senior advisor to the program. Freya lay at his feet, gray-muzzled and slower than she'd been, but still alert. Senior Chief Cade Brennan stood near the back, now running handler integration training at BUD/S. The man who tried to break her had become the man who ensured no other handler faced what she'd faced. Declan Murphy sat with his team. He'd made lieutenant commander himself, running SEAL Team 3 with handlers embedded in every squad. Elena looked at them all and felt the weight of 7 years lift from her shoulders. 6 years ago, I stood at this compound hiding everything I was. Today, I stand here having honored 2 promises to Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes, who believed handlers could be operators, and to my father, Staff Sergeant Marcus Thorne, who died proving it. She paused, letting the words settle. This program exists because people believed when belief cost them everything. My father believed in 1991. Hayes believed in 2020. Master Chief Garrett believed enough to risk his career protecting me when I had nothing but a promise and a tattoo. Garrett stood. The entire audience rose with him in standing ovation that echoed across the compound. Elena saluted him. He returned it with hands that still remembered every fight. The Wolfpack Handler Integration Program has trained 47 graduates. Those operators have deployed to every combat theater where American forces operate. They've detected threats that saved hundreds of lives. They've proven that dogs are errant equipment their partners. And they've honored every handler who died before the program could protect them. Her voice strengthened. Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes was right about everything. Handlers can be operators. Dogs can be warriors. And the impossible becomes possible when someone refuses to accept that it isn't. She touched the trident on her chest, the Navy Cross beside it, her father's dog tags beneath her uniform. To every handler who comes after you, stand on the shoulders of giants. Marcus Thorne, Rebecca Hayes, every Wolfpack operator who gave their life so you could have this chance. Honor them, prove them right, and never forget you're not just handlers, you're SEALs. She stepped back from the podium. Applause thundered through the compound where 6 years ago she'd been worthless, done broken. After the ceremony, Elena walked the beach with Garrett. Freya moved between them, slower now, but still pressing close to the people she loved. "Your father and I used to walk this beach," Garrett said, "planning the future of K-9 integration. Never imagined it'd be his daughter who made it real." Thank you for everything, for protecting me, for believing, for keeping him alive in your memory. Garrett stopped walking, looked out at the Pacific rolling in eternal sets. I didn't protect you, Elena. I just made sure you had the chance to protect yourself. That's what old warriors do. We pass the watch to the next generation. And you, Garrett smiled, I'm passing it to you. All of it. The truth, the mission, the legacy. He handed her a worn leather journal. Your father's field notes. Everything he learned about handlers' dogs operations. He started this in 1991. I added to it. Now it's yours. Elena opened it. Decades of knowledge handwritten across hundreds of pages. Her father's handwriting in the early entries. Garrett's careful script filling the later years. Space left blank for her to continue. What do I do with it? What we've always done. Teach the next generation. Protect them. Make sure they never have to fight alone like we did. They walked in silence for a moment, 3 generations of Wolfpack warriors connected across time. Hardwick, Elena asked. Leavenworth, life sentence, no parole. He'll die in that cell knowing 7 families got justice because you refused to quit. Garrett's voice softened. Your father's watching, Elena. Somewhere. And he's proud of the warrior you became. Elena felt tears threatening, but didn't fight them. Some moments were too important for stoicism. The sun dropped toward the horizon, painting the Pacific in shades of gold and crimson. Freya pressed against Elena's leg, and somewhere in the distance, other dogs barked, new handlers, training new partners for missions not yet imagined. The promise was kept. The mission continued, and the Wolfpack would never die again. Elena Thorne had survived what killed her father, had finished what Lieutenant Hayes started, had proven that handlers weren't attachments to be protected, but operators who belonged in the fight. She stood on the beach where she'd nearly drowned, where instructors had tried to break her, where she'd been thrown to attack dogs and emerged as their alpha. And she knew with absolute certainty that every painful step had been worth it. The watch had been passed, the legacy secured. The future belonged in handlers who would never know the names of everyone who died to give them this chance. But Elena would remember, would honor them, would ensure their sacrifice meant something. The waves rolled in, the sun set, and 3 warriors, one young, one old, one canine, walked into the twilight together. Behind them, Coronado stood eternal. Ahead of them, tomorrow waited with all its unknown battles. But tonight, just for tonight, the war was over, and the good guys had won.